What's up everyone, Blade here, and welcome back to another video of 7DS Origin. Inside today's video, guys, we're going to be going ahead and going over some of the multiplayer aspects inside of this game and pretty much how they do work. Now, I've been doing a lot of looking and digging around for at least a couple of these footage, and I finally gotten a little bit more of a gist of how the multiplayer does work here. There's some things that are going to be divided among just either playing in your open world, some things that are actually divided into raid bosses and dungeons, and then there's some other things that are divided into a small bit of PvP. So if you guys are interested in this, be sure to sit back, relax, and enjoy the video. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It really does mean a lot to me here. And as always, stay beautiful, keep on going, and keep up the support. We've been moving pretty decently, especially when it does come down to doing this game, and I look forward to the actual release of it as well. So without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at some things here. The first thing I wanted to take a look at was, first of all, Beats PH's channel here. This is another YouTuber that I do know as an acquaintance here a little bit more, and he ended up talking about the multiplayer aspect and what he liked about it, especially when it came down to the closed beta test. Now, I was not too what's it called, lucky to get inside of the closed beta test it was here, and it kind of sucked for me because I really did want to give it a little bit of a shot here. But the closed beta test did have a couple things that was like dungeons that look something like this here, where of course you're going to end up going through the dungeon, doing a lot of different little side quests inside of there that eventually will lead you up to the dungeon boss. Now, the thing about this here is I do have a little bit of other footage that was shown at TGS that we're going to go ahead and go over here. Hopefully you guys do find it very helpful, and it gives you more of an inside look of how it actually does work. So let's see if I can get this up here for you guys and show this off a little bit more. But on the screen, you guys should see at least a little DVD area, and here we go. We're able to see that this is kind of how it is. You go through yourself a little bit of a dungeon here. It's gonna look something like this, where obviously you have your friends, your 4 characters here on the side, in which every last one of your friends are going to obviously have their own main character they're using and their 3 other party members. Essentially, what you want to go ahead and do is get to each of these little quest areas here, do what the quest is telling you, and once you go ahead and do so, as we're going to slowly go up into the video here, eventually you're going to meet little mini bosses, and later on meet a gigantic boss, which I do want to get to that boss right here. Going to meet a giant boss inside of one of these corridors that all of you guys will end up having to face. Now, this giant boss is not an easy one. It's going to be this guy right here, and as you guys can see, he's a little chunky. Now, from what I've noticed, there is obviously some gimmicks when it does come down to fighting the boss. There's going to be obviously a lot of stage structures that are going to mess with you here, and different things that you're going to have to learn. So example, we're seeing them silently go to these little altars or eggs here, and they're having to take them down in order to make the spider come down before the spider essentially just wipes you off the face of the earth. So kind of interesting to see that they're actually adding some gimmicks here and making the bosses very intriguing to really do here, which is actually a cool deal. And from what I do know, the bosses are pretty darn difficult. There's been a lot of people who've been saying they're very fun, does feel a little bit satisfying, but the hard part is they are difficult. If you end up losing here, it will reset you right at the boss's corridor, which will have you with a little bit less HP. But if you die too many times, you might have to reset, and therefore you're going to get less and less less and less HP, and end up having to essentially just keep on doing it over and over again, which does kind of suck for some people. Some people just want a whole retry button just to let us go straight into it. But I do think this, by making it ultra hard how it is now, and then making it so after you lose so many times you just have lower and lower HP, you have to fully restart. I think that's actually a cool aspect, because then it makes it so you need to be ready and you have to actually learn the mechanics in order to make sure you don't have to restart the whole dungeon. So kind of interesting to see how that's going to work here. I'm excited on that one, but that is only just one of the things that you're able to do here. So one of the multiplayer aspects was that raid gimmick. The other multiplayer aspect actually is going to be some of the overworld here, where we're able to see at the center of Leonis, you're actually able to see a couple other players and interact with them, and be able to see something like your characters in the hub world. This is similar to Duet Night Abyss, in which this was something that they ended up adding into the game as well, which is pretty cool to see, because at least you're able to see some folks in the lobby area, but alongside of that, you're able to invite them to your world. Then we have this section, which was more of a PvP section or PvP zone, which is kind of interesting because where we see them as these little bobbleheads, it's like a PvP area that you'll be able to just throw these snowballs or magic orbs at each other. And essentially it's just something for fun. You're just going to be going ahead and trying to knock out as many people within the time limit, and the team with the highest obvious amount of points is going to end up winning. Team with the lowest amount of points is going to end up losing. To get that points, you do have to kill the other opponent here with the magic balls that you end up having, which you can get all these different things such as like power-ups and stuff in order to actually KO your opponent. So I think this is more of a safe way of doing PvP, especially inside this game. Some people want it to have like actual 3D PvP fist to fist type deals, but this is probably the safest way to do it, especially when it does come down to 3D PvP. This can get a little bit murky, especially to a lot of fan bases. So who knows, we may see 3D PvP later down the line, but this is a decent start, I would say at least. Then later on, of course, we slowly see a little bit more into some of the dungeons that we're seeing here, where they're actually doing some puzzles. This was shown in the TGS type of trailers there as well. And then besides that, you just have your basic dungeons or bosses here, being like red demon, gray demon, and all these different demons and bosses here that you will be able to go against with your friends, which is always going to be cool. From my knowledge, they are pretty darn difficult as you go up the difficulties in general here, which is awesome to actually see. And they do take a little bit of time to go ahead and take down. Now, in one of the TGS's actual comments here, they did say that they're looking into bringing more multiplayer aspects, such as like races, which is going to be pretty darn cool, where you can race your friends. You're going to have other little aspects that we're going to be able to do as well, that who knows, might be able to just go ahead and box later down the line. But right now, I guess this is kind of a good area. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at another source here, I ended up checking out some things and wanting multiple people's thoughts on the multiplayer aspect here. Found a Reddit post. Now, Reddit isn't always, of course, the most credible here, but I do look at different people's opinions, especially when it does come down to certain games here. So for this was actually one of the most upvoted Reddit posts when it does come down to at least talking about the game and the pros and cons about it, in which I looked for the multiplayer aspect. Well, the one thing that they ended up saying about the multiplayer aspect here was that the raids were actually fun. It is a 5-person co-op. There is actually the 3-person that we've seen. You guys already saw those dungeons here, but there is a 5-person co-op in raid bosses. So you're not only going to be doing just your only friends here around, though you can have a lot more players inside of this that will allow you to take on these giant bosses. Now, the cool thing that I found about this is, one, that's a lot of players, meaning 5 people, meaning you possibly will have 5 different players with 5 different teams of 4, which is actually interesting, because then you can try and do all this type of synergy. If the bosses actually do scale on the amount of players as well, it's going to take a while, so you guys are going to genuinely need some strategy with it. I do think this is pretty cool to actually see something like this that's going to happen. If they end up adding more content like this, I would actually be happy with it, as long as it's really difficult and doesn't become like something that, you know, we could just tap or anything like that, because the fights have to have some meaningless or have some meaningful impact to them to make you want to continuously do it. And luckily, from what I've been hearing, this actually does give you what you're looking for. You're able to take a little bit of a while, you do have to dodge, you do have to learn things, and that is always a good thing to see. Now, the only other thing that I haven't been able to see is they didn't have much other multiplayer aspects inside of the game from what everyone has been saying, and that's perfectly fine. They already have said that they're going to go ahead and create more things for it, so maybe on release of the game we'll see some other things as well. That'd be cool. Now, some things I wanted to go ahead and go over, or at least say that I like to see for multiplayer in this game, is kind of the things that my man Beats was saying as well, where there could be a future where we'll have guilds in the future. I think they did mention it, but we'll have guilds in the future, and then we can start doing guild bosses together with some of our guild mates. Or we can start doing, if they do work on like 3D PvP, right? We can start doing PvP versus other players, which could be interesting. There's something like this that's kind of in Solo Leveling Arise Overdrive. I think there's now a like PvP function in that game as well, where it is 3D combat, and you both are going to have to be going at it. You're going to have so many logs or sub outs that you're going to be able to go ahead and do, in order to get out of combos and stuff. And I think something like that would be pretty darn cool. We've seen this in Where Winds Meet, where there's certain things you can go ahead and just escape out of, certain things you have to sit there and hold. And if they do something like that, it would be pretty cool to see. The only hard part is we have to make sure that duping is not a heavy issue inside of the PvP model. If they want to do something like that, I think they could take some inspiration from a game called Tower of Fantasy, in which where their PvP was it was decently balanced, to say the least, out that entire game. All you had to do was own the character and you pretty much was able to use them in the entire PvP scene. Everything was exactly the same. Everyone had max dupe. Everyone was able to just use the characters that they owned and pretty much play the entire PvP scene at a neutral state. So if they can go ahead and do something like that, I think it would be pretty darn good. Though I want you guys' opinion on that as well. Now we'll talk more about world exploration and stuff into different videos later down the line. I gotta do some more research on this here. I'm gonna start getting these videos actually scheduled out throughout the week. So if there is things that you want me to go ahead and do, be sure to let me know down below in the comment section. But for now, thank y'all for watching and peace on out.